Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Bacon. Welcome to the show, y'all. I didn't see Darius again for a stretch. Weeks in here can pass like spilled syrup, slow, sticky, sweet for nobody. The yard still spun. The dice still clattered. Men still prayed for miracles they planned to ruin. But the space where that boy used to stand, it stayed quiet. Word came down that he was in protective custody for real this time. Not administrative, not pending, permanent placement. You gotta mess up loud to get a room with your own shadow. He fought one of the third floor boys during chow, got caught with a blade dull enough to tell the truth. Now he was boxed up. I told myself I wouldn't think about it. But guilt don't ask for permission. It just moves in. Every time I sat on my bunk, I saw Calvin's face from that phone call. The same way I remembered my own mama when she realized the boys she raised now live by favors and debt. Some memories stick to you like smoke. You wash and wash, but the smell stays. One morning, the CO slid an envelope under my door. I thought it was a shake notice at first. But it was Darius's handwriting, big, impatient, scared, the kind of script that says a man's hands are shaking, even if his pride ain't ready to admit it. Joe, I ain't mad. I know I messed up. I just wanted to tell my pops I'm sorry. They moved me because they said I'm a target now. I can't sleep right. Sometimes I think I hear dice in the vent. You ever hear dice in the vent? That line hit me. Because yeah, I've heard dice in vents too. Every inmate got ghosts that roll the bones in their head. Every time I tried to forget my own bad decisions, they came back in doubles. I wrote them back even though letters between units get read like scripture by bored COs. I kept it simple. You hear dice, it's memory talking. Stop listening to it. Start writing something worth remembering. You can't undo a bad hand, but you can stop dealing from the same deck. He wrote again, said he missed his pops, said the food in PC tasted like old decisions. Said he didn't want to come out until he figured out how to stop being stupid. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because that's the sound of a man starting to see the edge of his reflection. I told Raven to keep an ear open when she worked the SEG unit. She was one of the few who could move between worlds and still keep her humanity intact. A week later, she came back, mop in one hand, story in the other. Your boy's quiet, she said. Don't talk, don't move unless they make him. But he's breathing, so that's something. I nodded. Sometimes breathing is a win, sometimes it's the punishment. A couple nights later, lights out didn't feel right. Tier 2 still. When prison gets too quiet, it's never peace, it's prelude. Then came the long angry metal scream of it. COS running, keys clanging like bad percussion. I didn't know yet, but I knew. They found Darius on the floor of his cell, wrist cut shallow but enough to start a war inside him. He'd used a broken piece of mirror, the kind they let you have so you can shave without remembering who you used to be. They said it wasn't bad, just a cry for help. That phrase always bothered me. In a place where nobody listens, how you supposed to cry for help and not mean it? He made it, but they put him on watch. 24 hours, no shoelaces, no dignity. That's when Calvin called again. Joe, he said, voice cracked like he'd swallowed sand. They said he tried to hurt himself. He's alive, I told him. But this place rearranges people. Don't expect the same son. He sniffled, tried to hide it behind a cough. I should have been hard on him, he said. Nah, I told him, you should have been there longer. Hard don't teach. Time does. Silence hung like damp laundry. He finally said, thank you, Joe. For what? For not letting him die stupid. I ain't had no answer for that. Weeks crawled. I kept my eyes low, kept my mouth quiet, tried not to feed the rumor mill that always chews its own tongue. But the guards, man, they talk like barbers. One day I heard one tell another, that Reese kid, he's been writing letters to every church in Tennessee. And I smile. Maybe guilt ain't always a disease. Sometimes it's medicine with a rough taste. Then one morning a letter from Darius came, handwriting steadier this time. I ain't the same, Joe. I think about the way you used to talk about choices. How a man can be trapped and still find one. I think I found mine. I'm going to do the rest of my time quiet. Quiet, that's the first thing men promise and the last thing they deliver. Still, I tuck the letter under my mattress. Sometimes you hold on to hope even if you know it leaks. A few months passed. Calvin called less, but when he did, his voice had grown lighter. He said, he's writing me now. He even said he forgives me. Forgiveness in here ain't like it is out there. Out there it's poetry. In here it's proof of life. I wanted to tell him it might not last. But sometimes a man deserves a lie that sounds like peace. One evening, while the sun made the bars look like gold if you squinted hard enough, I saw Darius again. They moved him back to the main line. He looked different, still young, but quieter around the eyes. He walked slower, like he finally understood time wasn't something to race but to survive. When he saw me, he nodded once, didn't speak, didn't need to. We ended up sitting on opposite ends of the child table that night. He kept his tray neat, hands folded, eyes on his food. There was no pride left in him, but there was focus, and that's rarer. I leaned over and said, "You good?" He nodded. "I'm paid up," he said it, and that was it. And that's the only sermon a man like me needs. Later, I asked Raven how he was doing over in laundry detail. She said, keeps to himself, works quiet, talks less, but when he does, it's about home. Home, that word can mean heaven or hallucination in here. I guess for him, it was a little of both. Then, like everything that ever tries to go right in this place, it broke. A new crew came through loud and proud, trying to own the yard before they knew who already had the deed. They were taxing in everybody, shaking down the new faces. And one of them, this young cat named Ty, thought Darius looked like easy lunch. But Darius didn't fold. He stood his ground, quiet but firm, didn't raise his voice, didn't posture. Just said, "I paid once. I don't pay twice." Ty laughed, the kind of laugh that don't end well. Next thing, the CO's whistle cut the yard in half. By the time the dust cleared, Darius was cuffed, Ty was bleeding, and silence was back on the schedule. I saw him later through the glass in intake. He didn't look scared, he looked done, like a man who had finally stopped running from who he was. They shipped him 2 weeks later, said for safety reasons. We both knew what that meant. Start over somewhere else. Same walls, same rules, different ghosts. Calvin called again right after I heard. They moved him, I said. I know, he answered. He wrote me. Said he ain't mad at nobody no more. That's something, I told him. He said, "You think he'll make it?" I took a long breath before answering. "Depends what you mean by make it." "Make it out," he said. "Everybody makes it out," I said. Some in bodies, some in boxes, some in better minds. He was quiet for a while. "Thank you, Joe," he said again. "Don't thank me," I told him. He did the math. I just showed him the numbers. When the call ended, I sat there staring at the floor, counting the scuffs like they were dates on a calendar nobody celebrates. I thought about how many sons I'd watch walk into this place with swagger and walk out shadows. And how fathers always call thinking protection means survival. It don't. Protection just delays the pain. Everybody pays something eventually. That night, I took out Darius's last letter and read it again by the yellow light bleeding from the tear. The paper was soft now, corners folding in like tired hands. At the bottom, his last line said, "Tell my pops I finally get it." I don't know if he did, but I hope to God he keeps trying. Because in here, understanding ain't the same as changing. You can understand the fire and still stick your hand in it. And when I finally lay back that night with the fan humming its lazy sermon and the lights buzzing like tired bees, I thought about what it costs to raise a son in a world like this. One behind bars, one beyond reach, both learning too late what debt really means. That's the part Calvin never asked about. That's the part I'll never stop answering. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so